field calm, Midwest tone, but he's spitting facts like a dog with a bone. Lanky frame, fire-haired, eyes on the case, breaking down the game and the darkest place. Sports scores to murder boards, Hoosier logic cuts like swords. From Friday lights to chalked out lines, this redhead's brain rewrites the lines. Inside the Hoosier mind, where the stories twist and stats unwind. He's a legend in flannel, mic in hand, digging deep where few can stand. From touchdowns to crime scenes raw, he's got the truth in every draw. Yeah, step in if you dare to find what's brewing inside the Hoosier mind. He'll talk Pacers, Colts, or Colts on trial. Hoosier humor with a devilish smile. He's that redhead sleuth with a box of clues. Takes your headline, breaks the news. With every stat and every scream, he's painting portraits in your stream. Don't blink, he'll tie it tight. From game night wins to murder flight. Inside the Hoosier mind, where the facts hit hard and the lines are blind. He's a ginger ninja, sleuth and slick, cracking cases play by play quick. From courtrooms to the hardwood floor, he digs for more than just the score. Tune in and don't rewind, you're deep now inside the Hoosier mind.
There we go. All right. Welcome in, everyone, to Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice, and Gunfighter Beard Co. If you want to help out a fellow veteran who is also a Marine with all natural products, all made here in the United States out of South Carolina, check out Gunfighter Beard Co. Great beard care products, great stuff, make you smell good, make you look pretty, even if you have a beard like my co-host tonight, Joe. And for anybody who doesn't know, Joe and I have actually done podcasts for a few years now. We started on a show many moons ago called Jawing and Balling, which is making a comeback. We have everything in place except a date. We got to work on the date of when we want to revive the show. We're still working on that.
We're like the ugly girl in the teen movie. We are all ready to go. We just don't have a date. As soon as we get that settled, then we're going to do the little primp up and preen and get ready.
Oh, exactly. We got everything. We got the dress bought. We got the makeup. We have the car rented. We just got to figure out the time of when we're going to get the car there and when we're going to show up. But excited to have Joe on because it's been many years since we've had Joe on to talk with him because, you know, for it being the off season in football, Joe, there's so much drama. And I feel like it happens every single year about this time. It's like as soon as it starts to get real quiet and it gets real slow, football's like, you know what? You need to talk about us. We're being missed right now. This
is also what they wanted. Like Goodell was very clear and the NCAA was very clear that they want to be a 365-day sport. And they've really accomplished that thanks to people like you and really themselves.
Right. It's kind of one of those. I don't know how many you've ever watched. It kind of reminds me of those telenovelas. Like, you know, you're in the middle of like a big scene, and it's like, oh, okay, nothing's really happened, and it's like, oh, Dios míos, and then boom, there's dramatic music and something completely changed. That's kind of what football reminds me of at this point.
And then shirtless firemen and pregnant grandmothers show up, and it's all hell breaks loose.
Exactly. And speaking of, to kind of lead us into the topics for today, the biggest one being, if you follow college football, you've probably heard about this. If you haven't, the biggest news story that has broke over the last 24 to 48 hours is Brendan Sorsby getting an injunction to be allowed to be able to play football this coming season in 2026 for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. All the backlash that has come about that just within the first 24 to 48 hours. And we also have a bit of NFL news with Da Bears potentially wanting to make a move here to the Hoosier State, with that looking more and more increasingly likely. But there is kind of a problem with all of this, Joe. About the time that we talk about this and we think it's going to happen, all of it's going to change. So we'll have to truly wait and see. But But let's dive into the first part with Brendan Sorsby and that whole entire mess of him getting the injunction, getting approved to play college football. I just want your thoughts to start with, though, as far as should this have even been allowed? Because this is obviously causing a lot of ramifications and potentially changing all of college sports moving forward.
So this story was inevitable. That is the biggest problem that nobody is talking about. They're talking about it in like little snippets, but this was always going to be a chance of what happened. And really, when I heard this story, because I'm not into the college game like you are, obviously Ohio State I am. Outside of that, I couldn't care less. But this all goes back, and there's a very distinct memory I have. It was Oklahoma State wide receiver Justin Blackman, who sold his jersey for $1,500 to get money. And the NCAA came to him and said, "You are no longer allowed to play the rest of the season." He was drafted in the first round. He was ostracized and all this. Everybody's like, no. These kids get an education. And everybody kind of knew, like, it's his jersey. He can kind of do with it what he wants. And that was not the start of, but that was one of the first big stories I can remember where people started talking about, like, if somebody wants to pay you to show up to a car wash, to shake hands, shouldn't you be allowed to do that? And ideally, the NIL, the name, image, and likeness, is what that should be. Tony owns a company. Joe's a famous college football player. Hey, bud, come sign autographs for 2 hours. I'm going to give you $1,000. Sign as many as you can. At the end of it, have a great day. Hey, sign 100 photos for me. I'm going to auction them off. I'll give you a cut of it. That's it. And then NIL leads to access to more money and more desire to make money. And it hasn't become that at all. And you might be thinking, well, NIL doesn't really have to do with this because it's gambling. You need money to gamble. If you signed $40,000 contract to, a name, image, and likeness when he was a freshman for Indiana when he wasn't even playing, then maybe that's the money he turns around. I saw a report that Sorsby spent $90,000 gambling over 4 years, making 40 bets on teams that he was on to win and lose. Tony, I'm a huge sports fan, and our good friend Amon, he is covering cricket all around the world. I don't care if it's cricket in India. I don't care if it's soccer in Brazil. I don't care if it's badminton in China. The cardinal sin of any sport is you don't gamble. Mm-hmm. It is implied. It is the law. And this kid, he's not the only one. He's not. And the fact that the NCAA thought they had power and really has no power, because when they came up with all this, they were just like, yeah, this is going to work out great. And it has worked out terribly. And Sorsby he's going to miss the first 2 games. Like you said, this news might change in the next 12 hours. Another judge might come in and override that, and it might go to – we don't know as of right now. But when you are talking about other conferences' athletic directors saying that not only are they not going to allow football teams to play Texas Tech, but not allow any sports to play Texas Tech, this is a huge deal. And I just have one question for you. Who's in charge?
So that's the other interesting thing about this. And from what I heard this morning, Brady Quinn was talking about this on a radio show, and he's usually pretty in tune and pretty in depth with a lot of this. So the injunction came through, and I actually have the injunction that we can read here in a few minutes. So the injunction came through. The NCAA is going to appeal it. And what's really funny to go along with this is, since you're an Ohio State guy, and I know there's a few people, especially for a state more north of me, that is not a fan of Urban Meyer. He brought up the point that the NCAA is toothless, but not only that, it's not just that they're toothless, it's that they are stuck in the legality battles. They're stuck in the courtroom, and that's where they don't have any power. And truthfully, that's not the NCAA's fault. It's going to be one of the few times I would say you almost kind of have to go to the defense of the NCAA, because they did everything on their end that they can do. But with the different states, with the different, legislatures, different statutes and limitations and whatnot, there's that one judge in Texas that decided, no, this is actually what I want to go with. According to Brady Quinn, it is expected that the NCAA is going to appeal this, and they're going to appeal this rather quickly. I think the key thing we need to highlight is that this is just the beginning in June. the beginning of the season doesn't start until August 29th. So they still have a couple months, and I could definitely see the NCAA funneling not all of their resources, but a good chunk of them to ensure that this gets handled in a quick and efficient manner of, we need to make sure that whatever happens from this, we do our due diligence to do. The I think really the thing that is the pain is that there is a judge, and come to find out, he apparently was retired. And if I remember right, his law office is like 300 miles away from Lubbock, where this is even taking place at, which is also crazy, by the way, that we're going that far. But it also, it sets a dangerous precedent, because now if you're any college athlete, if you just find the right lawyer and then the right judge, you're going to be able to basically get away with it. And that's until, and the argument has been brought up to the Protect College Sports Act that I believe is in Congress currently at the moment. It has to have bipartisan support. But then you kind of get in those weird crossroads of, now the NCAA has power back, but then what happens to the College Sports Commission, the CSC, which is formed to help deal with, as far as it's labeled right now, they primarily deal with all the name, image, and likeness money, all the revenue, and all the cash flow for that. When do those two superpowers eventually butt heads, and who sides with who, as far as, we're all going to agree that the CSC is basically going to run everything, or we're going to keep it in the old ways and the NCAA is going to run over everything?
Well, and the biggest problem is that for my entire life, my 44 years on this planet Earth, the NCAA has always told us at every issue, we are an education institute and athletics is second. And not only is athletics second, while you are performing your athletic feats, you are not allowed to make money off of that. You are not allowed to sign endorsement deals. You're not allowed to, all the things we talked about, you're not allowed to do that. So my whole life, they've told us that this is not possible, it's not feasible, and it goes against the sport of college athletics. Yeah. So when it came time that this was just going to happen, they couldn't all of a sudden turn around and be like, by the way, we care about these kids. We want to make sure they're being compensated. Because for my entire life, you've told us they are being compensated in education and the opportunities that they have and the networking, all this stuff. So of course, something like the CSE had to come along. But the problem with that is they are the cousins of the NCAA. They're all coming from the same family. They're highly educated. They're politically motivated. They're all this. So it's not even, the bipartisan support is important because we do want the best interest of these kids. But anytime somebody with money is giving money to somebody who doesn't have it, there is a power imbalance. And anytime that there are people making decisions and the words start with B, as in billions, across college athletics, there is going to be chances, and unfortunately a lot of them, where the money is not being appropriated or spent or accounted in the correct way. So I don't know if the College Sports Commission is the best way to go. I don't know if the NCAA is the best way to go. It kind of feels like one of those historical photos where you see like the dictators from different countries shaking hands at a summit, and you're like, oh, this just doesn't feel right. Like they look happy and it's almost like Nixon going to China in the 70s, and you're like, I guess, cool. Yeah. It doesn't feel right. And I don't know if anybody's going to come down on a side other than the athletes. And in all honesty, with players like Sorsby, it's going to be really hard to root for the athletes here pretty soon too.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing too that you brought up is that for a long time these players were compensated, and now they have a chance to really capitalize on that. And like you mentioned with Justin Blackman out of Oklahoma State, even out of Ohio State, you look at Terrell Pryor, he got busted because he was basically selling championship rings for tattoos, and they ended up coming down hard on him.
His own private property, mind you.
It was his own private property, but I think it was the fact that he was making money tied to that, and because it's Ohio State gear, it's something that's rare. Not a lot of people are going to have it. Who knows where that's going to go with it. So there's a lot that breaks into it, but it brings into question as far as a lot of these athletes and for a lot of these kids now of, what else can I get away with? What else can I do? And one guy in the comments, the country has an issue with the massive promotions of gambling, which is outpacing the speed of the law. And these are perhaps issues that need to go to the mediation instead. And that's absolutely true. I think that's the other thing that I'm not going to say we need to necessarily focus on, but it's an issue that needs to also be addressed, because while Brendan Sorsby didn't technically break any actual laws, he didn't do anything truly illegal according to any state laws, federal laws, etc. Now, he did do an illegal, he broke a rule for the NCAA. That absolutely, that for sure absolutely happened. He broke a rule. He didn't do anything truly illegal. This is where, though, I would shift, because you have the athletic directors of the Big 12 coming out saying, like, yeah, we're going to have a meeting about this. You have the Big 10 athletic directors coming out and coaches getting, pissed that this kid is allowed to play. Even the SEC, I think even Georgia, Kirby Smart has made a couple of comments. And it's like, Kirby, I really don't think, given your current limelight of like 8 Georgia players deciding that 135 miles an hour is the speed limit, like, I don't really think you should be talking there, Kirby, about doing illegal stuff. And I think that's the other thing, because it's kind of unique of being able to see some Texas Tech fans' perspectives of this, of what they think. And it's very much the same as it is now. There's a 50-50 split of, some believe he should, some believe he shouldn't. But there have been a few that have brought up the argument, this kid does some gambling, which does jeopardize the intentional integrity of the sport, which is definitely a problem. Like you said, it's a cardinal sin that you don't jeopardize the sport's integrity, because look at all the conspiracy theories out there as far as, bad ref calls, as far as teams getting into playoffs or getting into positions that maybe they don't necessarily deserve or should not be in because of maybe biases or not, whatever the case may be. Again, it's one of those rabbit holes, we could go down forever. Like, maybe there's something there, but we don't have any tangible proof of it. But with this, we do. But then you have kids like, all these Georgia players now, albeit most of them have done this not being at Georgia, but you're still tied to the program because it's been such a consistent issue of guys actually breaking the law of, doing these high speed races and whatnot. And albeit none of the, well, I'm not going to say none of them, as far as I can remember off the top of my head for Georgia, I don't think any have actually injured or killed anybody.
Yeah, there was wasn't Jalen Carter? There was somebody involved in the accident that died, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right. And he was. Yeah. I think he ended up being acquitted, wasn't he?
Yeah, but it was still like
it was kind of weird. It was kind of
it was definitely some fire. It wasn't just all smoke. It was definitely some fire.
And that was right before he got drafted, if I remember, because that's why he fell in the draft stock, because of that, because people had questions about his character. So I think that's the other thing that people need to look at. While yes, Sorsby's is a great injunction and a great kind of smack in the face to college football, it's not necessarily the worst issue that's out there. And I don't want to try to make it like, oh, this isn't as bad as this, because this does still need to be addressed. And much to Erwin's point of, you can't give these kids millions of dollars. For a lot of these guys, this is the most money that they've ever had in their entire lives, probably more than their family has ever had, throughout the existence of their family. Give them all of these keys to these multiple kingdoms, all of this freedom to do all of this, and then tell them, hey, you can still gamble, but you can only do it on like 3 sports. You can't do it on football. You can't do it on basketball, baseball, anything that we as the NCAA potentially host, you can't do it on. And to me, it's one of those, I think they should just get rid of that completely. But at the same time, look how easy it is for people to gamble now. Like they can be on their phones and do it. Now I know, if I remember correctly, Calvin Ridley and Jameson Williams both,
Yeah.
when they were suspended by the NFL, they both did it on their phone, and they were doing it like in the facility.
In the facility.
So they like geo-tracked them to that. Not a smart move, but look how many years people still did it though. As far as like, oh, I'll get a bookie, I'll go meet this person outside of like a sketchy CVS and make the bet through somebody else's name, then they'll give you the money. Like you can't. It's kind of like, you know, with you being a dad and having kids, like eventually they're going to start driving, they're going to want a car, you know, and you're going to establish rules and boundaries for them, and you can tell them, hey, you have the car, you can only do 3 things with the car. You can go to school, you can go to work, then you can come home. That's all you can do. Your kids are going to be like, yeah, well, if I take maybe a little bit longer of a detour to like go get food and come there, nothing that's going to be the end of the world, nothing that's, you know, the end of anything, but still it's like, no, that's not exactly the rules that I laid out and established for you. Like, this is what I wanted you to do, kind of thing. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
In a lot of ways, yeah, and I want to get back to the point that the user made. I don't see the name, so I'm sorry I can't name check them, but they're absolutely right. But this is also the history of not only sports. This is the history of United States government and the way that we've done things. It was with prohibition. We're going to ban all alcohol, and it's like, okay, if you want to go back further, Lincoln freeing the slaves. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, you're free, and it's like, great. What do we do? It's like, I don't know. It's like, well, then you're not really free because you can't go anywhere. You don't have any money. You don't have any job skills. What do you want? Let's bring it even into more modern. The argument over minimum wage is everybody says, well, you can't just jump up to $15 an hour. You can't jump up to $18 an hour. You're right. There has to be a tiered system. And the problem with all of this is the NCAA told us, same as I referenced earlier, that this was a zero tolerance policy. You cannot make money while you are playing college athletics. You cannot do endorsement deals. You cannot go to car washes. You cannot sell your own personal property. You cannot do it. And then all of a sudden they were like, hey, we're going to create this new thing called NIL, your name, image, and likeness. And you can essentially sign deals, which in itself is not a bad idea. Tony owns a podcast company. He wants to, you know, the next freshman at Indiana University. He says, listen, I'm going to give you $500 a semester. Come on my podcast. You can talk. We'll do all kinds of stuff. Great deal. But now it has become more than that. When Ohio State won the national championship a few years ago, they were the most expensive roster in college football history. I think they said they spent $12 million to retain players. That is not name, image, and likeness. We need to separate these two. NIL is not the same thing as the schools paying these kids to play. That is not the same. And Tony, me personally, I'm really upset by the Sorsby news. I know you're kind of, it seems to be a little bit indifferent. This is not cool in any way, shape, or form. Again, as I said, gambling is the #1 cardinal sin of athletics from one seed to the other. It does not matter. You cannot bet. There are literally people who get banned for life. Match fixing in tennis, gone. Years gone. Professionals, people in other countries get killed. If they find out a ref was dirty, in some sports, they are literally drugged out of their homes and murdered because they believe in the purity and also the money involved in all this. Like, it is a serious thing. And if the backup freshman quarterback of Indiana University in 2022 is making bets, it is only the beginning. And again, I don't want to side with the NCAA, but they had to come down with the hammer. They had to kick this kid. Not only this, but Texas Tech, what are you doing? Are you really are you the Red Raiders? Great. But I don't get it. Like, you got to kick this kid off campus. You need to come down strong, and you need to say, we do not condone this. This is not who we are as a college. We don't want this. And the fact that I'm not sure Texas Tech is happy that he's playing, in all honesty. Do they want this press?
Here's where I say, for Texas Tech, to me, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And here's why I say that is because if you look at it at the one end, realistically, they're doing what we would consider a good university is doing. They're doing their due diligence to make sure that he's getting the help he needs as far as the treatment facility, the rehab facility. They're making sure he has all the resources they can give him to be successful. They're doing everything a good program should do for their student and their student athlete. I think where, to me, they get between a rock and a hard place is, one, they spent the $5 million on him to get him. which is a pretty significant investment as far as college football goes, to pay a guy to be your starting quarterback, and you don't even get to have him before he plays a single true solid snap.
Yeah.
So they've got that. Then you've got the other hand of how this is being portrayed and how this is being issued. Of he admitted that he's guilty. He admitted that he did all of this. He, that hasn't been a question. Like, he's been open, like, yes, I absolutely did this, and this is what I'm willing to offer as far as a quote unquote punishment for what I've done. The problem, though, is that it's being labeled as a mental health issue. And funny enough, I have the injunction here, or at least part of it, not the whole entire thing, because that would be really long and a really boring episode. Really boring episode, really, really fast. But the second part of this, for anybody who can't see it or if you can't read, you can at least hear it. This court finds that the applicant has demonstrated that he will suffer a probable, imminent, and irreparable injury if this court does not issue a temporary injunction, because he will be unable to participate as a member of Texas Tech University 2026 football team, including the 2026 football season, and one, the benefit from elite coaching, training resources, camaraderie, and regimen that only being a member of Division I college football can provide. To build the skills necessary to maximize his own success during the college football season, as well as that of Texas Tech's football team and each of its players, and to make an informed decision regarding whether to enter the 2026 NFL supplemental draft. So that is the argument that was made as far as why he should be allowed to play. Now, if you're Texas,
can I old man explain this? Can I old man explain this for everybody?
Yeah.
As a father who has kids and is an old man, because I'm much older than Tony, if I don't get my way, I'm going to have a hissy fit. That's literally what that says. If I don't get my way, I'm going to be a miserable prick. And by the way, if I do get my way, I'm going to be a miserable prick because I got my way. That is the most asinine legal argument I've ever heard in my life. Listen, I would love to be able to get whatever I want to given the best mental and standing of myself. I'm sorry, that's asinine.
Oh no, I agree. And here's like I said, here's where I think for Texas Tech, they're kind of in that bad spot, because if they don't supporting, oh, how dare you not, support this kid's mental health? How dare you not do this? Et cetera, et cetera. And Erwin actually brought it up. Say mental health, and every single lawyer goes, oh, cha-ching. And that's absolutely true, because no one wants to be that person or that institution, or in Texas Tech's instance of, you don't want to be that school that says, yeah, he does have a legitimate problem. I don't think anybody's dismissing that. If you bet $90,000, you bet like 10,000 bets or something like that.
Yeah,
you have a problem.
A lot.
like nobody wants to sit there and be like, man, they didn't throw everything they could to try to make sure that he got help. But much to your point, though, doesn't change the fact that it's a terrible legal argument. The first judge that actually saw this apparently recused himself, because it was just kind of one of those, like, he just laughed like, this is so stupid. I don't know why I'm even being involved in this. So that's when they had to go to this one. As far as the next steps go, this is apparently going to go to, I think it's the 7th Circuit or 7th District. It is going to a next level of appeal, Court of Appeals in Texas. And apparently the NCAA filed that the same day that ruling came out. So basically they had the paperwork ready to go, just in case he did. And I don't blame him, because it was said that he was going to fight it. So, they probably had this ready to go. So as soon as they found out, they filed the injunction. So I would say probably within a week, we'll probably hear some type of update as far as if this gets overturned or if it doesn't. The following question, though, I want to ask you, because we alluded to it a couple times. You have the Big Ten, the Big 12, the SEC. I think the ACC commissioner also gave his thoughts on the whole entire situation. Most of them have just been fairly disgusted that this has even been the case. But there's multiple of these conferences that have already started to come together and have meetings saying that we are not going to play Texas Tech in any sports. Now, my true honest feedback to that, I think that's a bit of an overreaction. Now, I can get I can get the football side because there's that direct correlation, there's that direct connection. Like, yeah, don't want anything to do with that. If I'm Texas Tech, and let's say I'm like the Texas Tech like women's softball team, why am I getting punished for what a football player did? Like, why is my season, why is my college career, why is my potential, professional career now in jeopardy because I decided to come to this school, like you said, either for education, maybe it's family lineage, maybe it's, maybe it's purely NIL, maybe it's just the money offer that they were given to do that. Why am I being included in a group punishment of a dude that I probably never even met or know, and I probably just know of him?
Yeah.
Why is now my sport being potentially in jeopardy because of what one other dude on a totally different team did? The only thing we have in common is the fact that we go to the same school and we're considered Texas Tech Red Raiders. It's the only thing we have in common.
Well, I will tell you this. You went to basic training. I know you did. I went to basic training.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you got smoked, you didn't even know who got in trouble. You just had to do the push-ups and you had to do the jumping jacks. And afterwards, you're looking at each other, looking around going, all right, whose fault was it? And it is unfortunate that there will be people who lose out on this. And I don't know. Maybe this is just more blustering from universities because, again, you want to be in the news. Because if you're in the news, you're getting talked about. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad or even if people understand. You're being talked about. And that's all that matters to them. Sorry. So it's the whole point of that. So do I think it's unfair? Yes. But it's nice to see some of these ADs, at least on the record, having a backbone of at least saying, hey, listen, we really don't agree with this. This isn't like, well, people are going to do what they want and we'll have to wait for the courts. Like, they are jumping out in front of this. Like, they are really stepping out onto the tracks blindfolded and hoping the train is not right there, because these are going to be some really awkward conversations to have to walk back if one of their players are. This is a very slippery slope. And I'm not saying that it's bad for them to make these decisions to go out and speak on this. Good for them. You really hope it's not in your own house. It's like when you make a comment about your kid, and you're like, man, your kid really does bad in school. And then you see your kid's grades and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have said that before I looked at my kid's grades. Maybe I need to worry about that a little bit more. So, but they are at least getting I would even say they're ahead of the process in this, because again, we're going to wait for this circuit court. We're going to wait for these decisions. And here's also the thing that nobody's really talked about, because again, I fully admit I'm not a college fan like you are. What if Sorsby just sucks? What if he's just not good? How many guys have we seen that transfer, that get this NIL? Who's the kid that's like the Patrick Mahomes Jr.? He's like in his third college in 3 years.
Oh, Dylan Raiola.
I knew his name, but I couldn't. Like, he's not Patrick Mahomes. The kid sucks for all intents and purposes. Like, it. Again, what if Sorsby just sucks? And again, that's kind of not the point, but it's also the point, is that the way things change is you need these things to happen. It's the same when Maurice Clarett, after his freshman year at Ohio State, petitioned to go to the NFL because they have the rule that you have to be 3 years removed from your high school graduating class. And he was trying to challenge the rule of going into the pros. And people now are like, wait, somebody's tried to sue the NFL for that? It's like, yeah, it actually happened. And you might not remember Maurice Clarett if you're not a Buckeyes fan and all that, but like, that was kind of a big deal for a moment. And Sorsby right now is the front of this, of gambling in college, of the NCAA power struggle, of what is the CSC going to be, the College Sports Commission, what's all this going to be. And in 5 years, nobody might remember his name, but it's also going to be kind of important where we're at. But these ADs and these commissioners of the conferences and stuff, it's a huge thing for them to go on record, because we know coaches and ADs also love to go off the record. An unnamed source out of the Big 12 has said that, like, nobody cares about that. Yeah. But if you're getting names, if you're going on the record, they think this is a big deal. Whatever we think about it, they think it's a big deal.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, too, that I almost want to pitch. And I feel like this could kind of be Texas Tech's like biggest opening that they could do, that kind of makes everybody but one person happy, but he still really can't complain. They don't technically have to start Sorsby.
It has to be on the roster.
They can keep him on the team. He can be on the roster. they don't technically have to start him. Now, there would probably still be some arguments of he shouldn't even be around the team, he shouldn't be there, and I can get those, but if you're Texas Tech and you truly want to kind of make everybody happy and say, look, we did our due diligence behind Sorsby. He got the injunction. That's what we're rolling with at the current moment. That's how we're going to roll. But on the other hand, we're not going to start him. We're going to do something completely different. We're not going to worry about that. There was another thing that was brought up, and again, this was by a Texas Tech fan in particular. Oh crap! Of course, I didn't save that one. That one made too much sense. Let me see if I can find it, because somebody actually posted a picture of like how they broke down their thoughts on the whole Sorsby thing. And basically they think that it's more just the fact that it's Texas Tech and that people just all of a sudden have this like massive thing against Texas Tech. Like it's been an issue for years. And it's like, no, this is just a very, very recent issue with Texas Tech as it currently stands right now. This is nothing new. This is not like old Texas Tech hate. Like, believe me, I liked watching Texas Tech for a long time, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I hate Texas Tech now. Like, no. No.
I think the biggest thing too is if you're the Red Raiders, this is the ideal situation to work out. Mm-hmm. He keeps the injunction. The circuit court upholds the injunction. He is allowed to play. He misses the first 2 games. You have some other quarterback on your roster who establishes themselves over the summer, starts the first 2 games, plays well. Sorsby comes back and does what almost every player who tries to come back from a suspension does. They get nicked up. They tweak a hammy. They have an elbow problem because he didn't get the full training because he was in court, because he overdid it trying to make his way back. And then he misses time due to a legitimate injury. And you're just like, you know what? He's on the roster. We support him. Somebody else is playing. Best of luck in the draft. Sorry about the $5 million. Like that is, ideally, that is their way out. And who knows if that's going to happen.
So I did find it. So this is what somebody posted as far as their breakdown of the whole entire situation. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read this verbatim. It says, I'm going to go ahead and need these anonymous coaches and sources to tell me exactly what Texas Tech did wrong. Indiana did not have any oversight to their team and allowed a player who's actively gambling on their team to continue playing. Cincinnati did not have any oversight to their team, found out a player was gambling, investigated them, and still allowed them to continue playing. That is kind of the weird thing that I found through all of this when it first came out, that Cincinnati knew, didn't report it, but then they immediately came out with a statement and said, oh no, if we would have known that would happen, we would have never done that. Like that's a little sketchy. The NCAA deemed Brendan Sorsby was ineligible, and then Jeffrey Kessler sought out Sorsby to be his representation. So that's the lawyer from his case. A local 2-time Texas Tech University graduate himself recused himself from the case. And then supposedly a completely impartial UTA and University of Houston grad from Fort Worth presided over the case and deemed Sorsby's case worthy of an injunction. Now, on the Texas Tech side, they deemed Sorsby was ineligible when the gambling news came to light, was 100% compliant in providing the NCAA with all the requested information, helped Sorsby find addiction treatment, and publicly supported their student athlete. Texas Tech didn't break a single rule in this entire situation, didn't cheat, didn't cover anything up, and didn't try to fix the process to work out in their favor. We were completely compliant and allowed the process to play out. It's an absolute sham that social media is condemning Texas Tech for doing what 100% of universities would do in this situation. And to an extent, I don't necessarily disagree, because you do have to think about it. And I say this more because of kind of like the whole Georgia thing, right? Like, unless the NCAA truly steps in and says, hey, we have a problem with this guy being on, he sped, he broke the law, whatever the case may be, we have a problem with him being on your roster. Unless it was something like that, I would argue any other of these big Power 4 teams are probably also going to throw everything they have to be able to do that. I guarantee if Alabama was in this situation, Alabama's throwing the entire book at everything to make it happen. Even as a little bit of bias, I would argue LSU is probably going to do it. Ohio State's probably going to do it. We know Michigan will admit they're doing it, but then they just won't get in trouble for it.
Yeah. Oh no, coach can't come back for 2 years. Whatever will we do? I think, in all honesty, with all that information being out there, everything you said is true. I think, unfortunately, it's the guy who buys stolen property. You didn't know it was stolen. You got a good deal on it. You thought it was going to put it was going to be the final piece of your living room to set everything together. And the cops come knocking on your door and say, "Hey, we have proof that this is stolen. We have to take it." And you're like, "But I paid $2,000 for it." And you're like, "Hey, man, sorry, those are the laws." And it's the second. I'll bring it back to parenting again. You got 2 kids. Yeah, a lot of times you don't punish the first one who throws the punch. You see the second one who throws the punch. Yeah. Sorry, Texas Tech, you are the last ones, so you are the ones who are going to get all the attention, mostly bad. And again, everything you read is true. Why is Cincinnati not being drugged through the mud? Why is Indiana, our national champions, not being drugged through the mud? Why are all these other teams, why are all these other people not being drugged through the mud? Because that is the way society works. I wish I had a better answer for you, but it is usually the last person. And Texas Tech, he is on your team now. You paid a hefty price for him, and now you get all that comes with that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. But again, it's going to make college football really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see, what does this look like in the next week or so? Because again, if you would have told me this a month ago, it's like, oh no, this is an open and shut case. Like, he did it. It's a super, red tape thing. Like, his college career is done. And then somebody's like, nah, let me just throw a little monkey wrench in that. Give a little drama. So who knows? Maybe this changes in a week. We don't know. But let's move on to some different drama, more professional drama, that also, ironically enough, includes the state of Indiana, at least, with the Chicago Bears. The reality of them becoming the Hammond Bears is becoming more and more of a possibility as each day passes on. Indiana has already started a lot of the financial legislatures. They've already done a lot of the meetings, met with them and whatnot, as far as like, hey, we'll help get this stadium established and whatnot. We will help make this happen to make you the Chicago Bears in Indiana. So all of that's possible. And then of course you have the outing of the mayor and the governor of Illinois, both coming out. They want the Bears to stay, but they have issues with how some of the tax money and whatnot is going to go to, where it's going to go to. The Bears have argued, like, we've already purchased the lot. Like, we just want help with, I think the biggest thing that the Bears have wanted help with and have asked is that I think they're going to tax the Bears like $53 million a year, just in like property taxes. And the Bears are like, look, either give us a break, like help build up something around it. And to an extent, like, I get it. And as someone, in a city where they paid billions of dollars for a stadium here, and every single place does it, like, it's hardly anybody's like Jerry Jones, where he basically took a $5 billion check and was like, I'm going to pay this out of pocket. Don't need you. This is what I'm doing because it's Jerry's world, and this is what I'm going to say is happening. The Bears don't have that luxury as far as having a $1 billion owner like that. Yeah. I do kind of get them saying, look, it's a mutually beneficial thing. Like, if we get a new stadium, if we do this, then Chicago can potentially be a hub for a Super Bowl, which is something that they have wanted to host for so many years. But because it's Chicago and it's in the Midwest and it's blistering cold, the likelihood of that is hardly ever going to happen. It could host a college football playoff game. It could host a college football championship. It could host a multitude of things if they do get the Bears a new stadium as a whole. But obviously there's so many issues behind this. What's your thoughts, though? Because you do follow the NFL a little bit more than you follow college, even though you are a Patriots fan. I do. What's your thought on this whole Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossi, Bears flirting with Indiana, relationship thing?
That's a shot. That's a shot. Come on. I'm going to deal with these with my other buddy, Sean. I'm not taking them here. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home to Chicago. No, it's, in all honesty, Tony, when I saw this, part of me is like, this is the reality of the new world. There's already talk about the Chiefs moving, which seemed to gain a little less traction than the Bears story. And that should really tell you everything about it. This is the Chicago effing Bears. Whatever you think of the Bears, when you think of the history and lineage of football, there are certain teams, and unfortunately, a team like the Browns, who have a long, great history of the early years of the NFL, helped establish what the NFL was and then later became. This is gross and disgusting, and it is a mismanagement and miscalculation on everybody from every side. Listen, I get it's hard to be a billionaire. I get it's a tough world, man. I hope to one day have those same issues. But guess what? There are certain teams in all sports that if you were told, by the way, did you hear so-and-so is moving? Where are they moving to? Well, they're only how far is that? How far is Hammond from what? Champaign, Illinois?
So
what is
like, oh, you mean Chicago? It's like 25 miles, if I remember.
Okay. 25 miles is the other end of the earth when you are the Chicago Bears. I get that you don't play in the inner city of Chicago. Like we've accepted that fact. Not like the Buffalo Bills play at Orchard Park, which is just outside of Buffalo. That's fine. That's kind of what we deal with, and that's okay. But if you were telling me Chicago, Illinois Bears play their home games in a different state, it does not sit right with me. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It doesn't sit right when the New York Jets and the New York Giants call themselves New York when they're in Jersey. I don't care that it's the metropolitan area. That's not New York. I don't like it. I just don't. I was trying to think of teams that if I were to find out that they moved, even if it was just a little bit further away, when I think of like the history of a sport, a team that came to mind, my favorite hockey team, the Detroit Red Wings, one of the original U.S. franchises. They were there competing with the Canadian teams in the NHL. If all of a sudden it was determined that Detroit was going to move, to another city, I'd be like, well, this is weird. I don't like this at all. Again, if it was the Pittsburgh Pirates in my neck of the woods, a down team, but a lot of history in baseball, around for a very long time. Same as the Chicago Bears, a lot, ups and downs, all this stuff. And all of a sudden it's like, by the way, the Pittsburgh Pirates would be like, that doesn't feel right. And I would say that is a gross mismanagement on behalf of the people who own the Pirates, and in this case, the Bears and the league. I'm sorry. I get that it's about money. I get Goodell's job is to make the owners and the league as much money as humanly possible. That's fine. That's his job. I'm not going to bemoan the guy overdoing his job. But in no way, shape, or form, listen, I'm going to make this argument, and you can tell me about it. There is no more singular, identifiable team through two words than the Bears, thanks to Robert Smigel and SNL. The Bears. It is a joke. It is a joke, but everybody knows who you're talking about. No, when you say the Bears, nobody has to say, are you talking about the California University Bears? Are you talking about? No, it is the Chicago Bears. It is the Bears. And when you have that brand recognition, there is no price on it. None at all. And the fact that they are, I can't even say flirting at this point, they've set a date. They are closer to moving to Indiana than we are closer to doing an episode of Jawing and Balling. That is how serious this is. Like, I don't know what is going on here.
So here's the other part that I learned actually yesterday morning as I was on my way to work. So apparently the NFL doesn't have to step in because there is a rule within the NFL guidelines, or whatever you want to call them, that as long as a team does not move farther than 75 miles from their, original stadium, like where they're at, like for Dub Air, Soldier Field, as long as they don't move farther than 75 miles out from that, they don't have to get approval from like all the other NFL owners as far as having to move and hop stadium and whatnot. Stuff, yeah. So they don't have to do any of that. And then plus two, it's kind of like what you alluded to with like going to prom. It's like, hey, do you go with the person? Do you go with like your best friend that you've known forever and ever? You guys kind of have like, everybody jokes, it's like the marriage pact or like the end of the world pact of like, yeah, if I'm 35 and you're 35, we're both still single. Like, yeah, let's just get married because, we're the only people that are going to be able to tolerate each other. And then this new girl shows up and she's like, hey, you don't have to hardly do anything. You can buy me a McDonald's, double cheeseburger. I'll go out on a date with you. And that's Indiana. Indiana's like, no, no, no. You come here. We'll hook you up. Don't worry about it. So that's kind of what it reminds me of. But it really sucks, and it's weird because you would think for a state like Illinois and a city like Chicago, where you have literally every single major sport represented there, you have 2 Major League Baseball teams, you have an NFL franchise. There was talks they even wanted a potential second NFL franchise.
Yeah.
Who in the world it would be, I have no idea. But they wanted another one. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do that. They have an iconic NBA franchise with the Bulls. Now I know it's been about 30 years since that's been the case, but still, an iconic NBA franchise. They even have, albeit it's a bit of a dumpster fire with some of the trades and whatnot that they've made, and they kind of lost their quote unquote celebrity player, their WNBA franchise for a while there with Angel Reese. So they have every single thing. And if a city like Chicago, albeit they're not technically losing the Bears, it's hard to sit here and say like, yeah, we're the Bears, we're from the city of Chicago, but we play in Hammond, Indiana. And again, Brady Quinn is the one that brought this up. It makes no sense that you want to go to Hammond, Indiana, which is a very industrial town. Like most of those northwestern cities of Indiana, close to Chicago, like Gary, Hammond, all of them, they're all industrial, coal mining, steel plant cities. And most of them have really not been like popping and growing since like the 70s and the 80s. Like they have been on a very downward trajectory for an extremely long time. But it does make you wonder, like, if this happens, is this something that we're going to see more of? Like you mentioned with the Chiefs, like they're moving to Kansas City, but in Kansas, because it's like just across the river to grow, to technically play there, because it's the same thing. And Kansas is like, oh yeah, we'll give you a new stadium. Missouri won't, but we will. And I kind of wondered the same thing and I know for the Jets and the Giants, theirs was because of taxes as well. That's why they moved from New York to New Jersey, because the taxes were going to be a whole lot easier on them than New York was going to be. Like, to an extent, if you're some of these states, like I get you're wanting to also basically make a profit off of this, like the advertisement that you get, like, if you have somebody like the Bears, like they're a nationally recognized brand, like they're one of 32 NFL teams. They have fans all over, at minimum, the country. They maybe have a few fans all over the world. Like the travel to Chicago to see this happen, like look at the playoffs. Like everybody wanted to go see the Bears. Right? Everybody wanted to go there to see them play the Packers. Everybody wanted to see them host the Rams. Like they were on this magical hot run. Like, why
their quarterback is the cover athlete of the new Madden. I mean, like they're as high as they're going to be with not winning a Super Bowl. Like this is it.
Yeah, and again, like you said, it's faults on every side, because the fact that it's even being considered. But I'll be honest too. Supposedly, this is a classic Kevin Warren negotiation tactic, and honestly, it is kind of a smart business tactic of like, well, if you won't give it to me, I'll find somebody who will. Like,
again, I get it. It's just like, if you're the state of Illinois, you have to be. I'm sorry, if you're the state of Indiana, you have to be doing backflips, because if I'm them and this goes through and like you are building a stadium and the league is like, yep, you are good to move there, I am literally hiring 27,000 interns to get on every social media network to say Indiana, the home of the Chicago Bears. And I am putting it on every bus, on every billboard, on every TV ad, on everything. I'm going to remind people that the Chicago Bears play in our state. And that's a big deal, because, I'm not sure it's really talked about, but there is kind of a little rivalry, I think, between Illinois and Indiana, a little big brother and, little, and all this. And if they hit the Bears, that is a big blow to Illinois. That is literally like taking the wife and the kids and leaving you with like, oh, I mean, I guess I still have the house.
Mm-hmm. You do. You have the TV, you have the house, and you have your chair. That's all you get.
Yeah.
They get everything else. And it is kind of a little bit of a rivalry. And I think that's part of it. Obviously we won't go super deep into it, but you got a little bit of political rivalry there. It's a lot more, it's harder to buy certain things in Illinois than it is in Indiana, and vice versa. It's a whole lot harder to buy some things in Indiana than it is in Illinois. And funny enough, it's a whole lot easier to buy it in all 4 surrounding states of Indiana. Indiana just won't jump on board. It's neither here nor there, but yeah, it is super, super interesting. So
let me ask you this, because I know we got to finish up here. I know you're in Indiana. Is this more the Bears losing or giving away, or is this more Illinois giving away or losing the Bears, or is this Indiana taking it? Because I feel like this is more Illinois kind of just dropping the ball more than it is Indiana sneaking in the dark of the night and stealing them like the Indianapolis Colts did to the Baltimore Colts many years ago. I feel like this is more just like, oh, look at this Fabergé egg I left on the counter. I hope nobody takes it.
Pretty much. And Amber, my husband's grandpa, is going to come back to haunt the management of the Bears. Probably. Believe me, there's a whole lot of Bears fans that'll probably come back to haunt them too.
They will lose fans over this. They absolutely will.
But I'll be 100% honest, at least from an Indiana perspective, and I don't watch the news here a whole lot because news is just aggravating. But truly, this to me seems more of Illinois is losing the Bears than Indiana's trying to do this like super sneaky thing. To me, Indiana is kind of doing this from a true like business perspective of it's like, oh, if you want to move here, yeah, we'll take the extra revenue, we'll take the extra traffic. People are still more than likely going to fly into O'Hare or Chicago's airport and then drive to Hammond, Indiana, because that would just be the smarter and easier thing to do. But
congratulations on your new toll roads, because you're going to start getting toll roads going from, there. I mean,
hey, that's already supposed to be a place anyway. That was even before Bears started to show up. So that was already in talks, unfortunately.
But Indiana is basically investing $5 billion to make $30 billion over the next 10 years.
Yeah. And plus, again, they've already hosted a Super Bowl once within the last 15 years. Like if this happens, oh, hey, here we go. We have another whole brand new stadium. We can host a whole nother Super Bowl. We can host a whole nother college football, championship. We can do all these different things because we're in the state of Indiana, and the state of Indiana is going to get some type of, tax revenue, whatever the case may be. They're going to get some piece of the pie from this if Indiana is able to. So to me, Indiana is kind of in the best situation, because if they get them, it's a win. If they don't get them, they don't really lose anything because they already have an NFL franchise here. It's not like they're like, oh man, we really just need an NFL franchise. Like, no, we already have the Colts. They're here in the capital city. If we have another one just way up north, cool. Yeah. Best of both worlds.
So, it's like Michael Phelps getting another gold medal. It's like, cool. Already got one.
Yep. I'll just add it to the collection. I'll just throw it in.
Add it to the collection. Cool. Got another one.
Right. I'll just throw it in there. But Joe, buddy, I appreciate you being on. It was a blast as always. Appreciate your thoughts and opinions. If you liked Joe and I having these fun discussions, we are going to have more of them as soon as Joe, Amon, and I can all figure out a true starting date for when we want to bring back Jawing and Balling. Much like Joe mentioned, Amon is our good-looking, lucky co-host that gets to travel the world covering cricket and whatnot. So we kind of got to go more off of Amon's schedule, I think, than anything, because Joe and I have a little bit more flexibility as far as that goes. But when that happens, I'll make an announcement on here, and then that way, if anybody wants to hear more of Joe and I talking, we definitely will. If you like this, please check out Inside the Hoosier Mind anywhere you get social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, on pretty much all of it. And if you liked more military broadcast radio hosts and more other veteran podcasters and whatnot, check out mbradio.us. There's a little QR code right underneath Joe. Or if you just Google mbradio.us, that'll give you more information on them. And you can also check out Gunfighter Beard Co. Like you said, he's a Marine veteran out of South Carolina, all natural beard products, really great stuff, makes you smell good, makes you great. And other than that, appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will be back next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, We want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check